آزادی بیان،
言论自由
free speech.
When it became clear it was going to be shown, I mean, this was a piece of musical theatre which had now had very, very extensive outings in all sorts of different guises without any significant public protest, but a particular Christian movement, quite a small movement, Christian Voice, I think it's fair to say broadly evangelical in character, with some connections to what sounded like some quite tough-minded evangelical websites in the States, mounted a campaign for us not to broadcast Jerry Springer. And given the scale of the campaign, ultimately there was something like 60,000 complaints. And nowadays, the numbers, given the kind of mechanisation, the kind of machine-done character of the email, means that you sometimes have to take such numbers with a pinch of salt. But nonetheless, clearly there were. I could look out of my office window and see people burning their licence figs outside the front door of the BBC. So it was clear there was quite a few people were unhappy with the idea we should broadcast it.
Did it come to your home? Did it come to the centre?
Well, a number of us in various ways were threatened. I mean, they put some private addresses on the web.
Did they find your home phone?
I received some phone calls from a chap called Stephen Green who ran Christian Voice. And I had a number of, must be said, completely civilised conversations with him. Rowley Keating got a slightly more alarming set of messages, including a threat to, burn him and his wife and his children in their house, and so on. So there was some intimidation. I wouldn't for a moment argue that the majority of people who were upset about the idea of broadcasting it were people who were threatening violence, but there was a little bit of that and a little bit of menace in the air. And there was we had a security guy outside the door for a bit. But I looked at the programme. I mean, at this point it seemed to be sensible to rather short-circuit things. I'm the editor-in-chief of the BBC, and I looked at the programme myself. It was very much that I remembered it from the theatre. I thought that it was a piece of whatever you might think of its merit, manifestly an artistically serious and interesting piece of work, and the public should have the right to choose whether to watch it or not. And so we stuck to our guns. We made sure there were very careful warnings on BBC Two before it was broadcast. And to be honest, the moment it was broadcast, things got a lot quieter. The overwhelming majority of people who complained, of course, they complained not having seen it or being aware of its content, but on the basis of reports of what it contained, most of which have been almost entirely inaccurate, and once it was actually broadcast, the thing rather went away. But, I mean, I thought that was an example where I think you should be careful. I think religious figures of any major religion, if you're going to show them in demeaning circumstances, I think you need to ask yourself, to what end, as it were. This is not about, Tim, it's not about, in a sense, the curtailing of an argument. I mean, I don't think anyone ever really worries very much about, the sort of "I put it to you, there is no supreme being" stuff. I mean, the theoretical, in the world of the theoretical and ontological, the debate about, eschatology and whether there's a God or not, people don't worry about that. It's more about whether people's visceral response is such that you have to weigh that against other factors. In the case of Jerry Springer, I felt very strongly that the public's right, freedom of expression, is not really about the freedom to express, it's about the freedom to hear and to listen and to experience. That very clearly militated transmission.